My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, a podcast that brings you exclusive interviews from experts all over the world with life-changing work that you didn't even know existed. I'm your host, Prima Jobs, a partner for those that are ready to take their life-changing work in front of those whose life or business depends on it. Please follow or subscribe for more. Welcome back. Today is yet another amazing one, and today we're talking about prosilience. Who knew that was a word? But apparently it is, since I met Jenny. Prosilience means building resilience before you need it. It's like immunization. It's like eating clean, even though you're not diagnosed with nothing. And so I'm one of those people that are always just looking to do the things before I need them. And so her work attracted me because I would love to be prepared for the storm before it comes. But the natural way that we build resilience really is life wrestles us down, bangs us down, we die, resurrect, and we're like, okay, we've died, now we need resilience. Like, that's the natural way of doing it. People don't want to eat healthy until the doctor says, hey, you may die soon if you don't check your health. People literally don't want to go to the gym until the doctor says, hey, if you don't go to the gym, this year will be a miracle. And it's just human beings. It's just who we are. We don't solve problems until they happen. Like, how many times have you planned a holiday and you just had not to take that holiday because something happened? Like, we have plans, we have things we want, but every day, what do we end up doing? We pay for problems, we pay for emergencies, we react to life or whatever it is. And so I'm really excited for Jenny because Jenny is the prosilience type of expert. Jenny, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you as a guest.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. You nailed the description of how I hope to help people. And I'm just excited to spread the message.
What did I miss out? What did I miss out in bringing you up and trying to shortcut my way to what you do? What did I miss out?
I don't think you missed anything. I think you described exactly how we as humans and living in the human condition approach life. We're in a reactionary state most of the time. And when I started going through certification to become a general life coach, I started to learn how to respond more to life and how to be mindful in my living. And as I continued along that path and got very curious when people asked me, Jenn, how are you so resilient? And I didn't know. I researched and I ran across this amazing framework by an industrial and organizational psychologist named Linda Hoops, and it is the Prosilience framework. And it can help us repair burnout and prevent burnout. And so I loved how you brought up that, hey, let's be mindful of what could come around the bend, not in sort of like a fatalistic approach, but more of a thoughtful approach. Like, the only constant is change. None of us were guaranteed an easy go at this life. So let's be prepared to meet challenges, whether they're exciting challenges or they're ones that we feel are detrimental, so we can meet them without falling down and having to pick ourselves up. Let's manage our human energy so that we have access and can fuel our resilience muscles when we come across challenges.
I like it. Let's eat clean before we're diagnosed with a medical condition. Let's be curious about having a better marriage or a bulletproof before we get a cheating spouse. Let's be mindful of doing what we can to prevent the divorce. Don't wait for the divorce papers to get a marriage therapist. Like, I wish we could snap back and kind of do things before we needed them. Let's take parenting classes before our child has to be on drugs. Let's do these things well before. You have a quote that says, don't wait for things to be better until you live better. Tell us about that. Where did that come from?
Well, it was actually, it must be a deep-seated belief I have, right? In a way that I look at life. And so I'm a 2-time kidney transplant recipient. I've been managing my illness for 3 decades. I had my first transplant when I was 15 years old, and I'm now well into my 40s. I had my second transplant when I was in my 30s. I have a beautiful daughter that we adopted. And when she was 7 years old in 2015, she was diagnosed with a low-grade brain tumor. We're managing it beautifully. And we're also doing it mindfully, because this life is the only life we have. It is not a dress rehearsal. How do you want to move through a neat life? I want to do it with joy and humor and love and connectedness. I don't want to live in fear and worry and uncertainty weighing me down. And so I was sharing that, and it boils down to, you don't have to wait until things are all better to live better. We all have choice in what life throws at us and how we meet it. And I want to meet it in a way that's life-giving and that doesn't steal my life away. I want to experience what I'm working so hard to heal.
I know. I would love to like dive into your story, because I was shocked when I read that you've lived for some time, 3 months or so, without kidneys.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that story. My goodness, like how are you here? Like,
How
let's
am I
dive into
here?
the story.
Sure. Well, I mean, when I was in middle school, I just was sickly. A lot of strep throat, mono, walking pneumonia. And then afterwards, I just never quite came back fully to my energy and myself. And doctors believed I had chronic fatigue syndrome and treated me for that. Then all of a sudden, my cholesterol shot into like the 200s when I weighed barely 100 pounds. And they said, well, there's something going on here. So further tests showed that my kidneys were failing. And they believe it was because of an untreated case of strep throat. And they were just predisposed to being affected. So while my family so generously went through testing to see if they would be able to donate to me a kidney, I did need to have both of my kidneys that I was born with removed. And so I had them removed, and thankfully for kidney disease, and if you're looking toward a transplant, or if you decide that a transplant is not the treatment for you, kidney patients have dialysis as another treatment plan. And so I was on dialysis as a teenager for 3 months. I went to a dialysis center 3 times a week for 3 to 4 hour treatments per time. And that kept me alive until I was able to receive a kidney from my father.
Wow. Wow. When did you decide that you wanted to take your experiences and help caretakers and patients with chronic illness? What was the turning point for you? When did you decide, I want to do this work? I want to change, take my experiences and help other people?
What had to do with my daughter's diagnosis and how I was responding to that. It's different when it's your own health and suffering that you're managing versus seeing someone that you love go through that. And I didn't quite know how to process it and support her. And at the same time, I had another life disruption come my way. I was laid off from my 16-year marketing career in corporate America.
Wow.
And I knew I couldn't do life the way I was doing it anymore. I had physical manifestation of anxiety. I couldn't eat without becoming ill. I knew I needed a different way. And I happened to run into a past coworker of mine who had gone down the life coaching certification path and said, hey, you should try this. And so I said, okay. I thought I was doing it for my career. It turns out I was doing it for me and my healing and being able to support my family in a different way. And I did general life coaching for 7 years with a wonderful company that I contracted with. And then in January, I decided, I'm ready to really put myself out there. I'm ready to share my pain and suffering and meet it with my passion, and then make that my purpose in coaching. And so that's when I really decided that it was time to get the message out there about how caregivers and patients can support themselves in a different way, especially when you're on the chronic illness path, because we need sustainable plans to support us.
So when you say the chronic path, what do you mean by the chronic path? Are you supporting them if they have specific conditions, or what is the chronic path? I am not educated on that.
Sure. So for me, that's, I was diagnosed when I was 15 with chronic kidney disease. I wish I could have changed that diagnosis at the time. The disease progression was too far along. So I knew that I was going to be a chronic illness patient for the remainder of my life, which I prepare for it to be a very long life. So it's those who either have a difficult diagnosis that they're facing, cancer diagnosis, rheumatoid arthritis, those types of things. I even look at mental wellness, those who are managing diagnoses of anxiety or depression as a chronic illness for some. And it's very important to meet with the doctors that can help you along with that path and physiologically, biologically what's going on. But I think it's also very important to have support in other ways. My daughter works with wonderful psychologists that help her process what she's going through. And we're able to use tools and strategies from Prosilience to help her prepare too, because a brain tumor diagnosis is a lifelong diagnosis. But I have clients who I've helped with cancer diagnoses, so supporting them as they're going through treatment, but then also helping them prepare for the unknown, because that comes through quite powerfully when you're diagnosed, that you're not sure what the next month is going to bring you. You're not sure what your next labs are going to show. Will I have a recurrence? Will something pop up from the treatment that I needed to save my life? And so it's being able to prepare people to meet those in a way that's life-giving and not energy draining, so that you can live better, like actually live the life that you just healed.
Let me ask a question. I'm struggling to understand the context of your work. And so I am wondering if it's less of helping people overcome or heal through, and more of helping you make the most out of your life, no matter what disease is there, giving you the resilience to say, it's going to be all right. And if I die tomorrow, I just live today to the maximum. And so I wonder if it's more of that and less of let's help you reverse, recover, and more of no, you can live with cancer and your quality of life can actually be high. You don't have to feel like you're dying every day. You don't have to be regretting every day. You don't have to be someone people are waiting to die, like you're there and people are just waiting for the day. You can be diagnosed with this disease and you can build such a resilient muscle that you enjoy the bits of life. Because I really think that chronic illness has a way of getting people like decide that they're dead before, like where before they were dead, they just give up and they just get depressed and they just get in bed and they can't wake up, not because of the disease, but because of what they have decided to be their fate and story. Give me some light there. Are you more of one or the other, or is it both?
I love that you say both. I do believe it is both, because when you've been quote unquote beaten down by chronic illness, there is some work to do to bring you up to a benchmark of some sort of resilience or feeling that you are living. And we don't have to lay down and die upon a diagnosis, right? So yes, let's make the most. I actually have this beautiful crystal quartz that I got. It's 2 hands put together, because I like to say to people, like, how do we hold both at the same time? How do we hold suffering and things that are life-giving at the same time? Because that is the human condition. We're always holding both of those things for ourselves, and we get to choose which one we want to give more power to. That was a beautiful story that was shared by an author and her musician husband, John Batiste, and his wife Suleika. She was diagnosed in her 20s with leukemia, and upon him receiving many Grammy nominations years and years later, just a couple days before he received this wonderful news, she was given the news that she relapsed. And the interview that they gave on It Was a Good Morning America, they talked about that. How do we hold the beautiful and the brutal at the same time? And that's what I believe Prosilience allows me to do, and my resilience allows me to do, as well as really engaging one of my resilience muscles, which innately comes to me, which is positivity, or being able to see possibilities and hope in challenging situations. And that isn't the strongest resilience muscle for everyone. So I like to help people discover what their resilience muscle is strongest and what supports them most, and which other ones they'd like to build. Go out into the gym of the world and start to build those, so that you have more support for yourself when you meet challenges.
Is it more of the muscles of the world or more of the mental muscle? I feel like your game is more of a mental muscle. I actually believe that it's not the disease, it's what we make. I believe that most people get worse because of the state of mind that they get in and beat themselves around. And so the disease wins, not because the disease is the disease, but I think it's the perception and identity and what the mind does with the news that you have cancer. I think is what takes the hair off, and
Oh, definitely. It is looking at the mental, emotional side of things and what we believe, and putting more stock into those things versus our desire of how we want to experience life. And so we can give ourselves over to those negative thought spirals and the beliefs that, oh, they just told me I have the C word. That's a death sentence, when in this day and age, it isn't always. And so, yes, how do we support ourselves to see the hope and possibility if we receive a diagnosis? How do we engage our energy in a life-giving way to approach this challenge? And how do we draw on others for resources and support as we're going through this difficult time, so that we can live better as we're working to heal?
Even if you didn't heal, I think the two people can have a different experience with the same diagnosis, just because of how resilient and what the muscles they have for their mentalness. Like the mental toughness is a different game altogether, because you can all be diagnosed with cancer. One person can beat it because of the mind, and another person may not beat it because of just they don't have muscle to. And so I love what you're saying there. I wonder if you would be willing to go through the process of creating Prosilience, or the process that you really take your patients and caretakers through to move from a place of, oh my God, the C word to, yeah, we have the C word and we have life over here, and that's fine. We can hold both.
Sure. So the framework of Prosilience is made up of 4 building blocks of resilience. And the first one I really work with people on is calming themselves. Learning to calm yourself and your self-regulation tools, so that you can bring your quote unquote wise mind online, so that you can open yourself up to more ideas of what might be in the future, other than, oh, I just was diagnosed with cancer and that's a death sentence. So let's try to engage our parasympathetic nervous system, which allows us to rest and digest and open ourselves up to more life-giving thinking, versus going into our fight or flight reflex of our sympathetic nervous system. So that's the first building block.
Mm.
Another one that I really work with people on is being able to manage their energy, meaning energy fuels our resilience.
Mm.
And if any of the 4 of our human energies are depleted, we are not going to be able to engage our resilience in the way that we want to support us. So we take a look at, what is your physical energy level right now? What kind of energy do you have in order to use your body to get things done? What is your mental energy like?
Mm.
Are you being able to think clearly and quickly to make the best decisions for you in this moment?
Mm.
How about your emotional energy? What is your competency in working with difficult feelings? Because when we can work with difficult feelings in a way that doesn't drain us, we have more energy to be resilient. And then the last is the spiritual energy. So being able to connect with something, a sense of meaning and purpose outside of our current circumstance that can keep us going.
Mm.
And all of these forms of energy are interconnected. And so when we can find ways to plug the leaks when we don't have great stores of energy in any of those, then we can build healthier habits that support us, so we can actually engage the next part of resilience or prosilience, which is solving problems using our resilience muscles or our resilience characteristics. And there are 7 of those. I already alluded to a few of them: positivity, confidence, priorities, creativity, connection, structure, and experimenting. Now, we all have all of these characteristics within us, but we may vary in how easily accessible they are to us when we're in challenge. And so that's a really great place to focus with people once they've learned about their energy and how to calm themselves. We can take a look at, what is your positivity muscle strength? Would you like it to be higher? Would you like it to be stronger? Okay, well, let's come up with an action plan and daily practices that can help build that muscle for you. And I do find with caregivers and patients, the positivity muscle or characteristic usually is one of the weaker muscles, which makes sense because you've just been given this diagnosis that we have learned in society to say, oh, this is taking my life from me.
Wow.
So those are the 4 building blocks.
Let me see if I understand. I think I missed one or something. So the first thing is becoming yourself. If I'm going to reflect back, and you can tell me that, oh, Prima, oh my God, you're such a bad student, or
no,
or let's try. So first thing is, we have this news. We have the capital C or small c, whatever the C is, 4 letters that can, 4 or 5, but which can literally wipe away your life. But you can either decide these 4 letters mean as much as everyone thinks they mean, or you can decide the 4 letters will be there and I choose a different path. I choose to go through life experiences while holding these 4 letters over here. So the first step is becoming yourself. I like to call it self-regulation, so you can access inner wisdom. So you can experience life for what it is. And so when you calm yourself and you self-regulate and your nervous system is not like spiking and crashing, if you can self-regulate, then you have access to inner wisdom, which can guide and answer most of the questions that you have. The second one is managing your energy, which is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, like making sure that you have, I think, like there's an optimal where below that you may, like, if you're not trying to build your physical muscle, like if you just don't walk and you just stay in bed, I think your ligaments will get weak. And how can you go through life when your ligaments are, collapsing? So I think it's the same thing: physical, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. All these are muscles that we need to experience life as human beings, the fullness of it. And if one of the muscles is weak, there's tools to build it up so that you can have an equal opportunity. The third one, I think I missed it, but I think the third one is It had like positivity, joy. What was the third one?
Mhm.
What was
Yeah, and actually, you are such a good student because I missed one. So the
Oh,
four
okay.
build yes, I did. The four building blocks are self-regulation. One,
Mm,
two, managing your energy, physical,
mm,
mental, emotional, and spiritual.
mm,
Third, choose a strategy with which to meet the challenge. You have
mm,
choice and options in how you meet that challenge. And
mm,
that can be reframing it.
mm,
Do you want to take what was given to you, something that looks and feels like danger, and find a way to look at it that gives you more
mm,
positive meaning or opportunity?
mm,
Another way you could meet that challenge is to change it. Do
mm,
something to make it something that you'd rather like it to be.
mm,
Sometimes difficult with a physical diagnosis. And
mm,
then third, I usually go with accept what it is
mm.
and adjust and adapt
Yeah.
to the situation that we may not have control over, but what we do have control over is the choice
Mm,
that we look at it.
mm,
You were right. I missed one. So then the fourth part of
mm.
building blocks is engaging our resilience muscles or characteristics to face and meet the challenge.
Mm,
And that's where I'm talking about. We have 7 characteristics
mm,
or muscles that we're all born with.
mm,
Some of them may need more development than others.
mm,
And we can come up with a plan for you to strengthen those characteristics for yourself so that you have a solid foundation
mm.
supporting you so you can face life with resilience. What
Yes.
a good student you are.
So calm yourself down, self-regulate so you can manage. You can go through the storm if all you did was try and find a way to not be carried away by what happened. It's like the art of responding versus reacting. So it's the first
Mhm.
thing. When you calm yourself and you can self-regulate, you have the ability to respond to the diagnosis and
Yes.
not react to it and get a heart attack from it, you know?
Yes.
To manage your energy. Energy is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. 3, choose. She said choose a strategy, but I think it's, for me, it's more like choose what you're gonna do with what you have at hand. Are you gonna
Yeah.
live in denial and just see your hair fall off? Are you gonna become a culprit and cry your way to death? Or are you going to say the news is here, accept it, and I am choosing to adopt and beat it if I can? What are you going to do? Are you going to fight it and live in denial?
Mm-hmm.
Accept it and say, what's the best I can do with this? How can I enjoy my life while holding this thing over here and saying, okay, I still want to be able to enjoy my life, nevertheless?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to just look by? I don't know. Like, what are you going to do? The choice belongs to you. The manifestation is the manifestation. The physical problem is the physical problem. The chronic illness is the chronic illness. But what you do have the choice of is what you're going to do with it. So choose.
Yes.
And then the last one was engaging on the resilience muscles that you need. So whatever the muscle is, you decide, you have a plan and you're going after it and you're not willing to give in.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
need
And the
muscle X.
goal,
Yeah.
the goal of the work that I do with people
Mm,
is to bring all 7 of the resilience characteristics or muscles to the
mm,
same level so that we have an equal support of all of these different ways that we can meet the challenge with
mm,
positivity, confidence,
mm,
prioritization, creativity,
mm,
connection, structure, and experimenting.
mm. I like this because I think before life beats you down, most of us don't even understand these things. We've
No.
never carefully looked to go, these are the muscles we have that are helping us thrive or go through life. But I think
Mhm.
that when you are diagnosed, or when there is something like that in your family, or when you choose the path of awareness, you move from chance to actually knowing. And I think even when you're not diagnosed by whatever, you can choose to study this work and develop your muscles so that when the problem comes, you're prepared. So I think Prosilience is getting us aware of these things so that we can choose to work on them. That when the problem comes, then we have an overflowing cup, and the problem is probably going to pour and leave us with half, but we can still fill the cup again. As opposed to finding the cup half empty and then it just pours it and it's empty and you're like suicidal, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. I would wonder if you would be willing to walk us through some of the changes or transformations that you have seen in your clients or patients with this prosilience, if you would be open to that. Because I can imagine the transformation can be really like too much.
Yeah. Can I share how I experienced it? And then I'll share how some of my clients have experienced it.
Yeah,
so of course, I've started doing this type of work about 7 years ago when I was just going through certification. So understanding choice and response versus reaction and how to support myself, even with, you know, how disruptions can actually be magic in our life. I did a lot of work on even changing my relationship with death and developing my core sense of self that's firmly founded in love, connection, and the knowing that everything is energy. So I found myself about 2 years ago after a mammogram needing to go in for a further mammogram and an ultrasound because they saw something they didn't quite like. And I know because of my kidney transplants and my immunosuppression, it's possible that other things can pop up. So that's part of my accept what is. This is the treatment that I'm having to keep me alive. Other things could pop up. I am proactive in trying to prevent them. Okay. But here I am laying on the ultrasound table, starting to get all worked up inside. That feeling of everything's churning and swirling inside of me and fear is building. And I decided to walk myself through the 4 building blocks and look at my prosilience in this. So I started to do my calming techniques, my self-regulation. My sympathetic nervous system was fully in the driver's seat. I did some of my box breathing is one of the easiest ones that I go to because breath is a pause button for our brain. And so I was able to calm myself. So then I said, okay, my energy, I feel okay now. I have a connection to something outside of myself. I know that I want to live because of my family and the work I do and all of those things. So I had that buoying me. And then I looked at my strategy. Okay, I think I'm going to accept that if this is a diagnosis, if I am diagnosed with breast cancer and need to have treatment, I'm going to accept it and I'm going to adapt. And I immediately saw myself then like on a podcast or a vodcast with a head wrap on because possibly I was receiving some treatment. And I engaged my positivity and connection, resilience characteristics, and said, I can further use this to support myself and those in the world to understand that you don't have to wait for things to all be okay to live. And so that's one way that I used it. And as soon as I walked myself through that, and it had to have been within 5-10 minutes, the technician wasn't out of the room that long to review the pictures with the radiologist that long. And by the time she came back in, I was cool and calm and collected and knew exactly how I would meet this challenge should it be my reality. It wasn't my reality. So I got to release that, but I saw how that could work in the moment. So I'm very, very grateful that a few months ago, I was able to work with a wonderful group of caregivers for children with brain cancer. And I was able to walk them through this process of prosilience. And I did it in a way called explore and expand your caregiving superpowers. And so we took time to look at challenges and how we define challenges. And challenges are actually neutral. It's the meaning that we give them based on if we think they're life-giving or life-taking that can turn them into adversity for us. So we took time to look at that. I walked them through different ways of how they could self-regulate and calm themselves in many different circumstances. Do you have a last minute, hospital admit for your your child that's, scaring you. Okay, let's walk through how we can self-regulate so that we can turn our wise mind on and support our child. Then also walk them through the managing energy piece, the choosing the strategy with which they want to meet each of these challenges that come up. And also they took a assessment that identified which of their resilience characteristics or muscles work for them the best right now in this type of challenge. And then we also looked at, okay, which of the resilience characteristics or muscles would you like to develop a plan for, a quote unquote gym plan, workout plan for, so that you can build them, so you have more ease of access across all 7 resilience muscles. And the feedback of that was that, one, their perspective on the control that they had over this disease and challenge and circumstance in their life had changed. They felt that they had more tools and strategies with which to meet it. They truly appreciated understanding which of the resilience characteristics and muscles support them now currently, and that they aren't stuck to only using those, that they can build that and move forward. And it was just a wonderful time meeting with it was about 10 caregivers, and to see that there was I could actually see a change in their presence from the first class until the last class. And it was one of feeling some control over uncertainty.
Yeah, I know, like what happens is you get the news and suddenly you just give control to the words,
Yeah, another one-on-one caregiving client that I worked with is just in awe of how much understanding the 4 energies helped her. And specifically me being able to support her in discovering what her spiritual energy is and how she can connect with that sense of meaning and purpose and fire within herself, so that she can continue on the caregiver path without losing herself and without falling down and having to pull herself back up, which is the traditional definition of resilience, which I would rather look at. How can we build a reservoir of well-being for you, even while you're in the throes of challenge, to support you now and in the future?
I think it doesn't even have to be a caretaker. Anyone can need it. You never know when something lands on your head. Imagine if we all could do this, which is not the human way of processing things. But imagine if we all got this going, and if we all built a reservoir tank for that's how cancer disappears, That's how these chronic illnesses go away, because they're hitting people who have a full tank. But it can be so hard for someone who's healthy and happy to kind of think about these things. But yeah.
Well, and I love that you bring that up, because actually the origination of this work was in the change management space. So it was actually in the professional workspace. And I read the book Prosilience by Linda Hoops, knowing that that's how it was developed, and she's been researching resilience for over 30 years. But as soon as I read it, I was like, this woman has been watching my life since I was 15 and finally giving me a framework and language to what I've been doing innately. And now when people ask me, how are you so resilient? I can say, here, this is how. And that's when I wanted to adapt it for caregivers, because the last time my daughter was inpatient, I was on the neurology floor, and I just saw these parents of newly diagnosed children walking through like deer in the headlights. And I was like, I know how to help them. I want to help them. I want to ease suffering. I want to bring more light and joy to the world, even when we're facing these very difficult circumstances in life.
Wow. Tell me how you support people. I know you support people, you support patients, you support caretakers, you actually have coaching and other things. Walk me through that. Like, how do you support people? What are the containers? What are the possibilities, so that the listener can know which one is more for them?
Sure. Well, first, I love being invited to guest on podcasts because this really right now is an education and an awareness goal for me. Like you had said, what if everyone knew about this and we could prepare for challenges? So I love doing this. I like speaking. I have spoken to several nonprofits and organizations that support patients and caregivers. I offer workshops online. I'm having one coming up in the fall for caregivers, but anyone can take it. One thing that I have available all of the time via my website is this idea of discovering your caregiving superpower. So it's taking an assessment, 15 to 20 minute online assessment that's evidence-based, that helps you understand which of your resilience muscles or characteristics are easily accessed for you during challenge and which ones may not be. And then from there, we have a one-on-one hour debrief where we go through the results and we come up with an action plan for you to take into the world and build your Prosilience. And then I do have a 5-week Prosilience coaching package where we walk through, challenges, circumstances of life. We go through the 4 building blocks of Prosilience and we come up with action plans for you to take into the world and keep building your Prosilience, because a very powerful concept of Prosilience is that recognizing the micro challenges in our day, the ones that are relatively short-lived, the ones that don't have to take a lot of energy to resolve, are actually priming us for those larger challenges that come up.
I imagine this can even really help people get more comfortable with death. When someone dies, then we don't have people fainting from all that, people can deal with death differently if they build these muscles. I personally think death is to be celebrated and not, I think it's a path that someone takes to the next level. I just believe when we are born, and then we grow up, and then we get married, and then I don't know, and then at some point, I think you have to cross over to the spiritual world. This might be how I see death. Like this person has served their time in 3D, and now they'll just be in the spirit.
I mean, we are aligned on that. And if I were to come forth with that's sort of my goal with this work, I'm sure most people right now in this reality would be like, oh no, you're okay with death? How are you okay with death? It's loss and pain and suffering. But as you said, I believe everything is energy. Thank you, Albert Einstein. Like we all understand that, right? So once we are done here on the physical realm, our energy then continues into the next realm. And so it is always there and with us and supporting. And I totally believe that. But if I were to go into, let's say, a workshop with caregivers who are taking care of their child, and saying, let's change our relationship with death so that we don't fear the next MRI scan that our child has, or that we aren't afraid of the next surgery, I think they'd all turn off their computers and walk away just because of where they're at in their journey. But like I said, I did a lot of work to change my relationship with death. And of course, when we experience it, we are sad that that person's no longer physically here with us. And I know that they've transitioned into the next part of their spiritual journey. And so, but I mean, I'm with you on that.
I know it's not the easiest thing to lose someone. We would all want our people to be there. But again, it's a path, it's consciousness, it's awareness. And if you're in the mindset of how do I maximize what I have, if that person is alive and your mindset is more like how do I get the best out of my life? If you're in the mindset of Jenny, which is a Prosilience, by the time your death comes, it's not as bad, even for people around you when they see you enjoying life and beating cancer for years and years, and finally you die. When Jenny dies, I don't know that so many people will be, I think people have seen her go through life. They have written her off. They've seen her not die. That when she one time dies, they will say, wow, she lived. That woman lived. That woman went through stuff. That woman, they will actually on her hand celebrate her because of the type of strength and resilience that she had. When people said, "Oh my God, how can you possibly live without kidneys?" And she did it. And so I think
twice. I actually did it twice.
yeah, I think people will just celebrate you. So I think the question I'm posing back to you is, who do you want to empower today to celebrate their life and live nevertheless? The premise of this podcast is that you will share this with one human being whose life can be changed or altered by the speaker. So today we have Jenny, and Jenny is the person that we all need, especially when life is not going our way. So who do you know that is battling with chronic illness? What family do you know that chronic illness has turned their home into something it wasn't? Who do you know that you feel their life has been robbed away by something? The biggest thing you can do today for us is share this episode with just one person, whether it's the caretaker or the patient. That's the grandest gesture that you can do for Jenny. Imagine what would happen if you shared this with one person, who shares it with one person, who shares it with one person. And imagine if that loop kept going and kept going and kept going for the rest of the time. This is how Jenny would move from marketing herself, being on every social media platform, writing things, dancing on reels, to actually saving lives, which is the purpose of this podcast. That the expert will move away from creating another reel, another post, another dance, I don't know, whatever they're dancing, another TikTok, and they will sit down and save lives, because that is the power that they have. And you can be a part of this mission by just moving this and dropping it in the inbox or WhatsApp or Voxer of someone that right now you feel an illness, a chronic illness came and is trying to steal away their life or their family, or it's just they have an enemy called chronic illness. It's just sat there, boom. And now their life is all around that thing and all around that thing, because Jenny is the type of person that we all need to beat that and say, yeah, welcome, you're here, but we're going to move on and enjoy our life nevertheless. I think that's the biggest gift you can give a dear one. So if you take a moment and share this video, that will bless the work that I'm personally called to do. Of
You
course,
have
there are
brought
other
me to
things.
tears. Yes,
There's other things that you can do for this show, and that's share, subscribe, rate, review, follow, all of the amazing things. You know, the more you can do those things, the bigger we can grow. The bigger we can grow, the more people can share the message of that speaker. The bigger the community is, the less marketing and self-endorsement my experts have to do. They're doing God's work. They're doing soul work. They're just here to make a change, to help another human being. And what we can do is support them get the reach they need to do that work. And so you and I can do that in the smallest way we can. And I can guarantee that that follow, that subscribe, that rate, that review that you leave today is the difference in all of this coming to life. Jenny, we're winding up. But how should I move on if I am interested in navigating either the one-to-one, the assessment, the coaching? I want to get in your world. What's the best way I can move on from here?
I would love to invite you to, as you mentioned, follow me on any of the socials, because you can just get to know me a little bit more and be in the energy of how we could work together. The easiest way would be to go to my website, prosiliencecoach.com, and just drop a note, or like schedule some time for us to just talk. What are you going through? Let me get to know you. How could this help you? That would mean more to me than anything, because as you said, part of getting this work out into the world, I do spend a lot of time posting and emailing and all of those things, when I truly, my soul just sings when I'm able to connect with someone who finally wants the message and wants to change the trajectory of their life and how they experience it. So just get on my website, schedule a chat. I'm not going to sell you on anything. I just want to get to know you and let you see what it would be like to be held in the space that I like to create for patients and caregivers as they're moving through this marathon.
That's it. There'll be links in the show notes. Scroll through. There's different ways to connect with Jenny. My personal recommendation is that you book a call and get in the room, because when you get in the room, everything shifts. When you get in the room, you empower yourself to save yourself or save the loved one. Refuse to be on the outside. Get in the room. We've been with Jenny for nearly an hour now, 45 minutes. You see her heart. You see my heart. We're here to help. Get in the room. We're not going to harm you. We're not going to sell you stuff you don't need, but get in the room. There's something that happens when you move and get in the room. Another reel, another post, it's not what you need. What you need is to just get over that fear and get in the room, and who knows what will happen. That's my humble request for you. Get in the room. You see me bring an expert here, get in the room. I've vetted them. I have talked to them before. I know where their heart is, and I know what the service is. So if you feel pulled to the expert, get in the room. It all starts when you make that step and you get in the room. And I am trusting you to do that. Jenny, we're winding up. If I missed everything we talked about today, if I was not about to go back and watch it, what do you want me to remember?
What you said, get in the room. Do this for you. Do this for the life that you deserve to live. One that is guided by love and joy and life-giving experiences, and not one that's always guided by fear. Let's live in love.
I will end with this. The world will show up and do things. Life will happen. Maybe the chronic illness will come to you. But I still want to remind you that it is in your power what you do with that. The choice is still yours. People are not dying from chronic illness. People are dying from the fear of the unknown. I believe the cause of death, and I may want to own this quote or make more research, but I believe the cause of death is not necessarily the illness, but how we respond to it, what we let it mean, how far we let it sink, how very quickly we wrap up our life and say it's normal. I feel that's the problem. Not the illness in itself, but how we digest it, how we take it, how we deal with it, what we make of it, what stories we begin to sing in our head every day about whatever the word is. And it's my belief that it's within your control what that meaning is. And I can't do the movement for you. I can't do the decision for you. But this podcast exists so you can say yes. The yes belongs to you. The how does not belong to you. That is why Jenny is here. Are you saying yes? You don't want that illness to determine who you are. The how does not belong to you. But the yes and the moving into the room, that belongs to you. If you do those things for us, Jenny has the how, because we know the how was not given to you because it didn't belong to you in the first place. So my friend, move, book a call. I will see you someday, one day, with a testimonial that said, oh my God, I listened to this podcast and they changed my life. That's sincerely what I hope one day I see on the internet, that you watch this episode and you decided the cancer wasn't your name or the thing that was going to take you, and you took a chance. You worked with Jenny, and now, who knows, you have a different story. I would love to watch those and tear on them and feel the joy from the work that I'm doing today. I appreciate you for tagging around. Thank you so much, Jenny, for coming through and giving us a very big serving of your work. I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
And for you, the listener, thank you so much. I will see you in another episode, and have a beautiful day. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.